Yes, I have to just start the.
Somebody start the meeting?
Get it streaming, yeah.
Start recording.
No, you don't want to start recording, you start streaming.
It says stop, so we already are.
Yes.
Okay.
But until we turn the mics on, it's streaming us, but
But
they're not hearing what we're saying.
Can't hear what we're saying.
Actually, they're hearing what you're saying because
Jim's mic's on.
Mine's on. Should I keep
So
it off?
somebody had used. Okay, we're going to start the meeting with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to do the approval of the minutes later. At the present time, we'll take a report from our city manager and engineer, Paul Dietrich. Paul, it seems that we're like just a week away or weeks away from having the analysis done with that $200,000 grant.
No, we're just getting ready to get started. So at one of the last meetings in December, council awarded or authorized the award of the contract to Greenman and Pearson, GPI. So they were the lowest consultant. Because of the holidays, I did not get a chance to send them their notice to proceed. So this week I'll be reaching out to them, sending their notice of award and to proceed to start the project. So the project has not even started yet. As soon as they get everything contractually back to us, they got insurance and all these different kinds of documents. As soon as they get that all back to us, we'll get them going. And then, the first thing will be having a kickoff meeting to start the project. Then they'll set up the scope and talk, come back to one of these meetings to kind of get an initial meeting and, look at, there's a lot of public outreach as part of the process, and, we'll get them on board and move everything along. What I've been telling everybody, different requests coming into the city as far as, hey, can we have a change of this over here? Can we add this over here? If it's regarding traffic and bike and pedestrian and anything signage like this, at this point, because we have this consultant going to come in and do a citywide evaluation, I'm not going to put forth any recommendations either to implement directly or to ask council to implement and change ordinance or resolutions until we have that full analysis done and recommendations from this consultant. This is what their specialty is, and I think they're going to look at it holistically. I think we'll, obviously, after that first meeting that they have, the kickoff meeting, we'll be able to give them our wish lists and things that we've been thinking of, so that'll be our opportunity to really say, hey, this is where we see some issues and some highlights, and we'll go from there. But so we're kind of at their mercy, and this is a process. This is not something that's going to be done before summer. So we're not going to have anything as part of this process that's going to be implemented for this upcoming season. And really what this grant and this process does is this sets us up to develop projects that we can then receive federal funding for, because not a lot of communities go through this process. And so when the pool of grant money that we're going to be eligible for has less people in New Jersey trying to grab for those dollars. So we'll be more likely to be able to get grants and to implement projects. But in any case, I just want to make it fully clear, this is not something that's going to happen by spring. It's not something that we're going to have something by summer. It'll probably be fall time by the time we have a fully vetted draft product that's back here to, bike ped and be able to submit to council and then be able to start implementing projects. I mean, if there's a low-hanging fruit thing that, that we see along the line that it's going to take a quick little thing that's not, I'll say, capital investment-wise, but we can do something, we might be able to do something small, but I just want everybody to be on the same page as we start this process that, it's not going to happen tomorrow.
All right, I think.
So
I
it's
speak for
Called managing expectations, right?
got to manage the expectations and because this is important. And, I think we want to get it right. And, we're fortunate to have GPI is very experienced both in Cape May County, South Jersey, in understanding the needs of, I'll say, a shore community and the fluctuations in our needs. So we're in good hands to have a good process down.
G stood for what?
Greenman, Peterson, and I forget, I don't know if the I is just ink or something, but it's Greenman and Peterson. Peterson is the firm, GPI.
Yeah, I did see their proposal.
And I think I had sent out, I think I copied you guys on the proposal. So,
It was,
go back in, pull out their proposal, and then you'll kind of get a feel for the scope of the work, and it's pretty extensive of what they're going to be doing on, and also, it's not just Cape May City, it's all of Cape Island that they're going to be evaluating.
yeah, and they pay particular attention to the needs of a shore community
Yes.
compared to the other proposals.
Yes.
They have and I think the federal government actually gives a schedule for which they have to follow. And
They have to hit-
requirements end of this year. It has to be.
Right, and that's really why I want to, we don't want to rush it, because in order for this plan to be federally approved and the projects that they recommend to be approvable, they have to go through this process that they have. So it may seem like, but it's all making sure that the public's engaged and that we're working through it. So it's.
So who are the first meetings going to be with in the city?
The first meetings will be probably a kickoff meeting with internal staff. So probably myself, Chief, Eric, maybe with Public Works, and just kind of going over what we have and laying the ground. Then that'll be followed up with a meeting here, which would kind of be our kickoff public meeting at one of your meetings here to kind of engage the public and kind of start that public process at that point. But we'll have a kickoff meeting. Mike, you'll probably be able to be there. But that first initial meeting is really
Just the staff internal,
Just internal.
And this is a group that you clearly want to talk to because they've spent a whole lot of time on ideas for what things. They already have recommendations that they could send to council. It hasn't been sent to council, primarily because it should probably be funneled through this consultant, and it's something we will make sure that they have. I'm not sure if you have a copy of the Bapac recommendations that were prepared last July.
I think Terry gave me a copy
Okay.
last year, so I think I just got another copy here. So
And then the primary, as we talked about at council last week, the main thing is one of the most favorite conversations in town, which is the intersection in front of Colliers.
Yes, yeah, the stop sign, the county, we worked on that a couple times.
And
the county engineer's been out there. We actually, the mayor, myself, and the county engineer, Public Works, we met out there, and that is going to be adjusted. The county's already has a plan to adjust it.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I guess there's traffic rules and design standards that us engineers have to follow in designing roads and stuff. And the problem is when you fit that into that is a intersection that has a lot going on, and a lot of it's going to be training pedestrians to follow the rules, as well as the motoring public have to follow the rules. There's always this discussion of, previously, if you were making the right off of Lafayette, it was just a free right, like a ramp, and you didn't have to stop. But the reason why the stop is there is because there's a crossing, a pedestrian crossing. So you have to have a stop before a pedestrian crossing. You can't just have a yield through the pedestrian crossing. And the reason why the stop is back so far to be behind the crossing, because that's the only, if you can't move that crossing further into that intersection, otherwise you would have had to have really put them out into that island in that no man's land. And once you start doing that, then you've got people going all different ways, and it makes it harder. So even though it's a change from what we've all been used to for 40 years.
Decades, yeah.
Decades, it takes time to adjust and understand it. Plus, it's still in a temporary condition because we don't have the final traffic striping down there. The island is going to be a little bit raised and a little more defined. So I think everybody's just got to get, change is difficult. And it's just a matter of getting used to it. And unfortunately, us as residents that, we're here every day, we can get used to it. But when you have such an influx of people coming in and every day, that's why it's important that it's being designed in accordance with uniform traffic control so that it is something normal and standard and safe, even though it's different.
Yep.
Paul, back on the grant, as city manager, will you be the person most responsible for the grant process? I mean, will the group be reporting to you?
You're talking about Greenman and Peters, the consultant that we hired?
Consultants.
Yeah, they'll be working directly with us.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, is that Terry?
Is it being recorded?
Yes.
Got Terry here from Florida. I'm taking notes. Will there be extra lighting now that the new ice cream place is there? There'll be a lot of nighttime traffic.
And I think that's probably the biggest fluctuation that we, I know
Yeah,
the
that's
chief had to
definitely the
deal with.
influx. Yeah, we've talked about that several times. The popularity of it's only going to grow, and people are crossing there oddly. We've talked about some fencing
Yes,
possibly.
so we talked about on the Rotary Park side on Lafayette, for maybe that first 50 feet, we may put up a fence along there so that it
Guides them to
It
the
guides
right.
and channelizes people of, okay,
Yeah.
you don't cross here, go down to the crosswalk and cross there. Obviously, the issue is across the street at Collier's, everybody from that whole stretch, they see where they want to walk, and then
They just do it.
they just start walking. So, we're going to have to put additional, work with the county, and the revised plan does talk about additional signage there, making people, when you're on the Collier side, hey, put an arrow down for the crossing is down further, and then, we just got to work with it, and,
That happens at the end of the mall, going across the Congress Hall, too. People just fold
both,
with the requirement of no listen, instead of going down to the corner.
exactly.
Very end. I mean, it looks crazy, but the crosswalk just covers that whole square. I know it's an off-centered square, and it looks crazy, but what it does is it just alerts cars that people are going to be walking in that big intersection. I don't know, between that and then over at Collier's is just the need, I think, for the more crosswalks we have, the slower the traffic will be. And if it's confusing, at least it's confusing on the error of safety, But was there a discussion from, if you're doing that little island, sorry I missed it, around Collier, are you going to try to put an island in that I think was one of the plans for sidewalk?
At this point, the county does not anticipate that island to be an area for pedestrian refuge, if that's what you're asking. That island is to separate vehicular traffic, but not to be considered an island for pedestrian refuge.
Okay, because one of the plans was having
Yeah. We'll pass this all along. I mean, obviously, the intersection's been designed by the engineers to meet the design standards. And, you know, the professionals designed it in accordance with the rules and the regulations. So, you know, if we can't armchair quarterback it from here, you know, from that. So, but we will have the consultant look at all of our hot spots in town, and that'll be part of what they evaluate.
Is it a possibility that at the same time they work with the intersection at Decatur and Bennington and Lafayette, or no? That's just a medical issue.
They're going to be looking at everything citywide that involves not just bike and pedestrian, but vehicular safety. So they're looking at it comprehensively.
And are they looking at the homes like they did in Stone Harbor? I assume like they would.
That could be a potential option, sure. I mean, I just recommend, I think I sent everybody out their proposal, so I just would say, everybody go back and look at the proposal, and that really gives you a good feel for what they're going to be doing and that. Obviously, once they have their kickoff meeting, then they'll be bringing that back around, and we'll, again, have that discussion, and this committee and the public will have an opportunity to have that open discussion with them, and they'll take all the notes.
Yeah, Terry, I don't know if you heard that part of the meeting, but these guys would certainly come in and spend time with this committee after they get, have their first meetings with the city administration that they're going to be dealing directly with, which will be the city manager, chief of police, and our public works director, to name a few, I guess. And then they'll come in, and I'm sure have a discussion with us and hear our piece of advice, take it or leave it. Yep. Yeah.
Okay?
Did you guys have anything else for me, or are you guys
Oh,
good?
that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Looking forward to this project. It's going to be a great project for the city. It really will be.
Thank you, Paul.
Gary, I don't think you heard this is gonna be an island-wide project, not just.
So Terry, you're aware that GPI, the Greenman-Peterson thing, that's the proposal that he's suggesting that we look back at to see what their approach to the Cape Island analysis that they're going to be doing. So there's the engineering proposals that Paul sent us, and the accepted proposal was the Greenland-Peterson one, I think it's called, but anyway,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
that he just sent that?
No, well, back in in 2023, he sent it, yeah, so.
Oh,
So we just need to look at that to refresh our memories on how they're going to approach all this, that's all.
right.
Excuse me, before Paul leaves, could we just get a little report on the progress of the Beach Avenue project that's going on now, and as well as Lafayette Street?
Well, Beach Avenue, I think they're kind of winding down for some of their winter work, and then they'll be back in the spring to kick back up. I mean, I think they'll still be doing some concrete work, but majority of the work that I'll say that's crossing the street is kind of, I think they've done most of the crossing work. And then they'll be back in this, both of those projects will be back ready for paving in the spring to be open for the summer season. So both Lafayette and Beach Avenue will all be done, for the summer season. We are going to be having, just to give you a heads up, the city is going to be working on Lafayette from, I'll say, the Little Bridge to Sydney, and there will be major detour, and that, so that section of Lafayette will be closed for like 3 weeks, and detour will actually be detoured in both directions around the opposite side, essentially the outbound side of that circle, I call it.
Riggins.
And, so that'll be about for 3 weeks, probably starting in February.
Yippee.
It's going to be a show.
Well,
So-
are they on schedule as far as you're concerned, or, I mean, is
Yeah, yeah.
the schedule and?
Yeah, they're on schedule for what they need to, to be able to have the paving done before the summer season. Yes, they're on schedule.
Okay, so there's, at this point, no worries, they're doing their work.
They're doing their
and
work.
We can expect what they said they were gonna have by the beginning of summer to be ready and up and going by the beginning of summer.
Maybe not Memorial Day to have it all finished, but by the time, that first full week in July, last week in June, yes, everything should be.
Is Big Chairman of the whole lake they're working on, or is it?
It is the whole county portion. The city is trying to do a little design work on, I'll say, everything south of Broadway. So from Broadway to the Cove Pavilion is a city street. Yes.
Yep.
So the city has that out to be designed now. So depending on how we can work it, we're going to try to maybe incorporate some of that work, but it's tight right now. So as far as getting it all engineered and done, because if we're going to redesign, or if we're going to repave it, we want to redesign, I'll say, the end of Beach Avenue and the parking and how it terminuses and, how people turn around. So we're going to pay a little particular attention there, and that discussion may slow us down, I believe, to the point where it may not be paved and done for this summer. We may have to come back in and do that in the fall, winter, just because I think the discussion of how we end that is going to take some time. Just because I think
Right.
I think there's going to be some input. I think there's going to be some input. There's going to be some input that's going to be taken that may slow us down on getting contractors out there to do the work.
Got it.
Well, the the 2016 bicycle report suggested different parking down towards the end there, not the back out.
I think it'll generate some discussions for sure.
Very good. Point well taken.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Run.
I think that we have a responsibility to just make sure they're on schedule and they're doing what they said they were gonna do. We've been caught short over the years from time to time. I mean, they ended up doing what I consider a fantastic job down there on,
Pittsburgh.
yeah, on Pittsburgh. And hopefully it's the same, but also that it's on schedule and recognizing that we're gonna get the summer flux coming in late
Yep.
June.
Pittsburgh was actually pretty late. That wasn't done to the original schedule that they said they would, but there's lots of reasons for that, and the gas company was involved and had to do everything they had to do. But I think with Lafayette, I'm pretty sure they recognize how important Lafayette is, so.
There's so many variables in Lafayette with the school and the end of, with Collier's Liquor Store. There's a lot of things going on, and then there was things that happened throughout that now causes the bridge.
Yeah.
Certain portions up to the bridge now has to be worked on. That 3 weeks, 4 weeks is going to be very, very complicated with coming into town around Riggins. It's going to be very unfamiliar. I would tell people to use West Cape May for your entry and exit to the area, because it's going to be,
for a
just
few
imagine going
weeks.
the wrong way around
Yeah.
that intersection towards Yacht Avenue, past the Riggins, and then Seaview.
There's been discussions on that, though, for a long time.
There has. I've actually remembered discussions with former Mayor Bob Elwell that was regarding because that's my coastal evacuation route, and we've in the event that I needed to do the contraflow and reverse the polarity on the Parkway, I need and it floods there. We're working on that issue. Something Paul and City Manager or City Department of Public Works is working on with the county because of that flood area there. Like last night, we watched it a little bit, but You know, I can't have an area that floods on an evacuation route because it causes so much problem. So they are working on the duck valve, as they call it, you know, but still working on that.
I meant to ask Paul about the safe routes to school, what's happening at the end of Madison there, and how the kids are going to cross Madison and get to the school. Was that ever resolved?
I know he was working on that because the school superintendent actually called a couple times and was concerned with the current construction that's going on there, how the kids were going to, we were having to tell parents to drop off on Madison and walk them across. So to give you a valid answer, I think that would be, I would email Paul back and say, where are we with that? He would definitely be, I know he has had some discussion about that. I just don't know where it sits. But it's really,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Terry.
Go ahead, Terry.
So, my guess is that all of that will be thrown into where they're discussing these key issues all around town, correct?
It should be, if it's not addressed already, yeah, it should definitely be. I think, you know, I think if you guys have bullet points in areas of target, I would just put them in an email, because respectfully to Paul's position coming into town now, you know, he's not from here, but he's learning here, and he doesn't know all the, you know, I could say Frog Hollow to him, and he'd probably be like, where's that? You know what I mean? Respectfully. But if we tell him, he will definitely point it out, or you vet it through, you know, Mr. Yeager and to us. Just get us bullet points of target areas, and that's what we'll follow up on. And that's what we made a part of the discussion. And then you can follow back up on that when we have the meeting with that company. Because you guys, like Mr. Yeager said, you guys will be brought into that after administration, after council, and then you guys, respectfully.
I think the remaining issue there, I mean, like, right now, the cut-in for dropping the kids off is already done.
Yes.
They've made that cut-in. The issue really before us is how do we get the kids on bicycles safely across Madison to the other side to the school? And I don't think that has been addressed in detail.
I would send that
So-
specific question directly to Paul so that it can be brought up.
Yeah.
I mean, so I would isolate everything else, narrow in on that question, and have that sent to Paul. He can answer. Because if you throw too many things into one email, it's hard to catch up on. We can answer that directly, and it can get right, you know, just put us all in it, and we'll make sure it gets answered. It's key.
And if there's no solution, again, that's another thing that we would like to have the Greenman Peterson folks address, because that's a very critical one.
Yeah, I mean, we still have a lot of kids that come across there on bikes, and families just walk their kids to school. I'm sure, you know, the mayor is here now. You know, I'm sure times he walks his children across the street there. And, you know,
This county project has been going on for how long? Safe routes?
2016, they got the grant for safe to schools. And yeah, people talk about it, but nothing.
Is needing all these weird situations is, I think we just want to stress that sometimes they need to think outside the box, I believe. You know, like, this isn't the normal, but I think we can do something abnormal. Like I said, they just need to think out of the box a little bit. Who specifically, Mike, is it the whole city council was meeting on this situation? Obviously, it's you, it's Paul. Who are the people that are looking at that, if I may ask?
At that intersection?
Well, the whole looking at putting together all these key spots, finding those key spots, and then how to address it.
Well,
Council looking at that?
No. You know, council's expecting us and committees to take a look at that. And now council at the last meeting said, look, before one of the first projects has to be taking a look at Lafayette and Jackson Street intersection, which we get public comment on that. The mayor stopped in, by the way. He's in the audience.
you really wouldn't like you to know that. But,
You didn't, yeah, that was a secret. Yeah, I mean, so the council said, look, one of the first things we should give these guys as a project is that particular intersection to please give, because we're going to be striping in the springtime. Not we, The county will be striping in the springtime, and we certainly want to have a decision made on that. And I think that Paul and I will certainly, come together with a list of the key things we want them to look at, maybe early, but they're going to look at the entire island and analyze the whole thing. But we, as a city, need a few areas addressed. So, hey, this group here should have input in it, and so far you have. I mean, what we'd like to see is the Decatur, Bank Street, Lafayette Street addressed. That, we definitely want the bicycle crossing at Madison and Lafayette to get to the school. There are a couple of the key issues, and as we come up with more, I think Paul and I can be recommending that. But again, if you didn't hear the original, I think I said it, the original meetings is going to be between the senior staff here in the city manager, chief police, and the director of public works. So, and anybody else that they invite to be involved. But I think after that, one of the next visits should be this committee. And that's what I'm going to ask for. And then from...
That's one of the things that I'd like to see is when you have some of is we can stick our nose in. And Jeff is very diplomatic, and to me, he be invited to some of those meetings.
We're using Jeff's nose.
Yep.
There you go.
Yes.
Because he's quiet. He wouldn't want me in there. I can't be there anyway.
You said it.
He's quiet until he's not.
Correct. Yeah. Well, whatever.
Well, just again, back to the safe routes to schools. I mean, we've been discussing this since 2016 when we got the grant and the major problem being on Maryland, Madison. There, and how to get those kids safely through Madison up to Lafayette. Do we have any records of, ideas that have been brought up, rejected, put aside, or are we starting all over again? It seems that we've been spinning our wheels, to tell you the truth, for a long time on this, without anything really happening.
I think the records that you speak of probably would be best fitted from you guys. You guys remember it because you've been here since the inception. A lot of the people that are on this committee now are new to it, so I'm sure there's notes from the 2016 start, but I think since we're kind of starting anew, we just start over here and then just figure out where we are. Unfortunately, I think, there's some things we remember, but we can't remember everything. And, we've had several different managers in between all of this.
Right.
We've had one mayor for 4 years, but we've had several managers in between that, prior to that, from, way back as 2016, you're talking Bruce McLeod. You know what I mean? And probably even further back to, Lou Correa, into those areas. Lou Correa, Bruce McLeod, Jerry Enderwise, Neil Young, Manager Vol, now Manager Dietrich.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of managers in one span of time. Mayor's coming up.
No.
He went over everything else, Mayor. He did speak about with Mr. Yeager about Lafayette Street projects, the new stuff with coming around Riggins, Jackson Street, where that's going to be striped and raised a little bit. That's the one question that Terry just brought up, was the safe routes to school. That's the question of Madison Avenue.
The safe routes to school, as you're all frustrated, we were too. The county did actually finally bid it out. They bid it out. They approved a bid, and then they were almost ready to go when Pennsylvania Avenue was being repaved. So, in fact, it was finally the city that put the brakes on it, because basically we only were going to put it on for one winter, and said, look, let us pave all of Pennsylvania Avenue. Since it took so long, the road condition wasn't pretty bad, and everything underneath needed to be replaced. So he said, fine, put the brakes on it. We're going to repave all of Pennsylvania Avenue in one shot, which you've probably seen we have. So it's done, and it's ready for safe routes to school painting. In preparation for that, too, you saw the crosswalks they installed on Madison that was another thing that they wanted to do before doing, obviously, any more paving or striping. So my understanding now is that this spring, they'll be doing the striping for Safe Routes to School finally. And one thing we should check on, Mike, is making sure that that gets bid out. Because once it gets bid out, it's happening. But I just want to make sure that the county bids it out. So that would be one thing to check on. But they are scheduled to do it this spring, which will be great because then, as you also know, they did put in the curbing now for the bump out in front of the school. So that's part of the, I think what they're trying to do is stripe everything all kind of together in the spring. In regards to, this is just my thought on Madison Avenue. I mean, I don't think there's really any good solution, unfortunately. I know one of the ideas that was brought up for consideration, I was on the fence about it myself, and also, what are people actually going to do? And one of the discussions I think that you guys had years back was when they get to Washington Street on Madison, make a left, and then make a right onto Queen, okay? Then you have a very controlled crosswalk across Queen, essentially, to the school, a little further from Queen on
It's smaller, it's shorter, it's a shorter walk
Yeah.
distance across. The crossing guard's usually there.
Yeah, they have to return, and are people going to do it, I think is the main thing for me, if they're not going to do it. So, but that was just floated, I just wanted to remind you of that. The other thing that we definitely want to look at is if you look at the aerials, Google Maps of Madison crossing over, there is that strip of land that you can probably think of. Unfortunately, we all know how tight it gets right there, even for cars, frankly, going down Washington there. There's a strip of land owned by the school. I'll show you. You can kind of picture that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's still not perfect, and it doesn't line up. I'll just show you guys so here's Madison down this corner there. There's that.
strip, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think the minimum we should do is get people off of Lafayette as quick as possible. So essentially crossing almost on a diagonal, but create a sidewalk and get them right into the parking lot. The parking lot's not perfect, and we'd have to make like a good cross in the parking lot. But as we all know, I think the most important thing is getting them off of Lafayette Street.
But with the cut in front of the school, you'll have less traffic turning into the parking lot.
Right.
Where now it's normally going in there. Teachers should already be embedded and should be in class and ready. School buses should be into the turn, so that's a great idea.
So I think that, as you also know, the sidewalk there isn't very wide, and you don't want bikes on the sidewalk. But I think the apron to DeSatnik's real estate is wide, right, obviously, to their driveway. So maybe right after their driveway, we can create a wide sidewalk for both bikes and pedestrians. I mean, I'll call it a pathway rather than a sidewalk or whatever. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because the school owns that property.
Yeah.
It's available. They want to make it safe as well. So it's not a perfect solution, but it's certainly better than just having them turn onto Lafayette Street and continue on Lafayette.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good solution.
And then the other one that you mentioned, there was multiple scenarios that the county came up with at Collier's at the end of Lafayette and Jackson. And one of them that the chief and I discussed, and Eric Brzezinski and Mike Vole, was the stop sign on Jackson Street, right in front of Collier's. Right now, it's too far back. You could argue whether there should be a stop sign or not, but it just where it is now, it forces, if you're going to make a left onto Lafayette, it forces you into the lane of the person making a left onto Jackson Street. So at a minimum, that stop sign right now is due to be moved approximately 12 to 15 feet forward. What that would cause is, and Also, just remember, that's getting an island, so it's going to be much more well-defined than it is today. It's not a curb, so if there's a truck that has to go over it, things, it's kind of, it declines to grade, right, of the road. But in any event, what it would force you to do is make basically a 90-degree left turn onto Lafayette Street, which, if you look at it, makes much more sense because it makes a defined lane for the person making a left to facing Colliers and making a left-hand turn, and the person where Colliers is on your right and you're making a left-hand turn. You have two defined lanes that will be striped appropriately. But when
The crosswalk right now, which is just two lines, that goes from the park, a few feet up from the corner.
Yep.
And then crosses into the ice cream place. That's the part, that's very confusing as well, because there's a stop sign there and nobody ever.
people don't use it. But this is exactly the discussion we had with the county. They felt that there was no way to go directly from kind of the brick sidewalk at the end of Rotary Park, if you can imagine that.
Yeah, there's a drain board there.
Right.
There too, so you can't do anything around that.
Their idea was kind of trying to force people to make a right up Lafayette Street. Well, you know where the crosswalk is. Now, you said that's only striped with the lines, which is true. All of Lafayette Street obviously is going to be restriped, and that whole area will be redone. But I think it is when we look at this study that you all are going to be involved in, I think the first one you should look at is this corner, because we have the opportunity to perhaps make some changes with the county now in the springtime. We'd have to lobby them a little bit, which I've attempted to do to some degree with varying levels of success. But I think with an engineer study, that really would back up anything that we would like to see as a city. I think the main thing that is lacking on that corner personally is getting people to actually use the sidewalk, which means it's got to be in a logical place. Now, their logic to it in the counties, and I think it makes sense, is, and one other thing just to say, because we all know this, but the traffic in that area has increased with the ice cream store, right? We all know that. I mean, there's a lot of foot traffic there. So the stop sign on the right side when you're coming toward Colliers on Lafayette Street, of course, they want the stop sign prior to the crosswalk, which makes sense. And frankly, at the end of that road, most of the time you are going very slow anyway. To slow people down to a stop in a highly trafficked pedestrian area makes a lot of sense to me. And then you can move on if no one's there. But I think the one question that should really be answered is the crosswalk, because a lot of your pedestrian traffic is coming from the mall to the ice cream store or that direction. And what the county wants to look at doing is some type of, I'll call it a fence, but at the end of the Rotary Park that forces you to the right, and then to use that crosswalk to cross over Lafayette Street. Are you understand?
Yeah.
So right now, people are just walking across, okay?
Yeah.
They're not making that right, going another 20 feet, something like that, and using the crosswalk. So that's part of the discussion too. If you keep the crosswalk where it is, okay, what's forcing people to make the right and then cross? Because there's nothing I couldn't hear.
What'd you say? Repeat that, Terry.
So the problem is people won't, it's
Yeah.
the same thing up at Bank Street and Decatur, that one crosswalk that's to the right of Bank, if you're looking at the ocean, there's that one crosswalk there. But people come out of Decatur and they're going over towards the lanes, and they're not using that crosswalk, they're going to the the other corner and just cutting across.
Yep.
So, you know, it's the corner thing. I would really, I just still think that they should be able to put some sort of triangle there in front of Collier's. And, you know, they had the one plan which does a little zigzag thing, but something that was in bike walk committee, I don't know if anybody remembers that.
We have the
I do.
pictures here.
Right, so to me, people are just gonna come off the corner, whatever corner, that's where they're gonna go, whether it's a crosswalk or not. So what I'd like to see concentrated is that's maybe where we need to have the hawk, and put an island there, and people come across there, and then they can cut across to the ice cream store from there, without having to put a stop sign in front of the ice cream store, which nobody notices anyway. That's just my opinion, you know, if you get either even speed bumps there, where the crosswalk, speed bumps, you know, really put the technology into that spot. The hawk is good, and, you know, hopefully it would be nice to get one up at Bank, but that's just my thought. People, if they see the hawk, and they're gonna use that, wherever you put it. So, but again, that's expensive, but.
So anyway, I didn't want to interrupt too much. I
No,
just give you those two things, and again, just reiterate to this committee that we really would love to see you work on this corner as quickly as you can, maybe specifically a meeting on that. And then let's present those results to the county and see if there's something that we can work out to, because here's the good thing, they haven't done the island yet, and that's really what's going to define the crosswalk, not just the paint, you know.
A question for you on the process.
Right.
This county road, who makes the final decision? Are we a client of the county? Does the county make the final decision? Does our input make the final decision, what we want?
They've
How
been
does it
receptive.
work?
They've been very receptive, and frankly, they've looked at our previous report. So I think especially if we give them engineered designs as part of the whole package, I think they would be receptive. But ultimately, it is the county
It is their
engineer's
decision.
decision, yeah,
If you recall, when we met with Bob Church in this room,
Yep.
he was cordial,
right.
but he was a bit rigid about, you know, this is how we're gonna do it type thing, and so, if you recall.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's great, Mayor, that you're there, and really great presence for all of this.
Yes. Well, and let me just segue right into having a city manager who's an engineer, who speaks the language.
Right.
And so,
Huge, huge.
Bye.
He's running again.
So I'll take that as my cue as well, but I think you've done such a nice job with the first bike walk Cape May. So to get this second phase, I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think, and it is interesting when you look at bike walk Cape May, we've actually crossed off
Yes, we have.
a lot of it.
Yeah.
So this second phase, I think, is only going to serve to make a better product. So, yeah.
We're very happy with the response for the city.
Yeah, a huge thanks to Mayor, as well as
Thank you.
Mike Bull, as well as Eric Brzezinski and the Chief Police. I think that's the huge, having a team like that, that's the difference that we've seen in the last few years as to years ago. So we're very, very, I think everybody would agree to that we're very pleased about that.
Mike's been stepping on my foot at council meetings, so
don't forget Mike Yeager here.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, Mike.
Thank you.
Mikey.
Thanks, Zach. See you.
Yeah, no problem.
So it sounds like,
Chief, you've been very polite. Go ahead.
just to finalize this thing with safe routes to school, so it sounds like whatever the grant came forward with back in the day didn't conclude what was going to happen at Madison. And now it's just, and the county didn't come in and change that terminus. So is it kind of up to us and/or the new consultant?
That's what the mayor just said. He said, we need to, as a committee, come together with some specific recommendations for that intersection and some of these others.
Yeah, I'm putting on the list that I think priorities for the consultants, the Michigan to Lafayette striping, and of course, the whole process of how are we getting off across the street has got to be one of the first addresses these guys look at. I mean, I think we can have them looking at 4 areas we know are problems, and we would like good recommendations from them, and then go from there.
If you give them a starting point.
We have the paving of Lafayette this spring,
Yes.
and so that box there, or that intersection there is going to be striped. And so I think what the mayor was saying was that we need to at least be in a timely fashion to negotiate with the county folks, because
Yes.
it's their road. Is my understanding correct?
No, I think that's exactly correct. I think that the problem is that we have too many different ideas, and we need to settle on one, which is why I would hope that these professionals can go right to that and say, look, this is the problem that we have. We've got to do this right before the county stripes Madison as well as
Yeah.
Lafayette.
Before, right.
Before.
Because once it's done, it's done.
It's done, yes.
We got caught on that on Columbia a couple of years ago.
I mean, I think that there's no question, in my mind, we need one of those large green boxes, whatever they're called, for the bikes on Madison. It's got to be there. The public has to know that the bikes are there at the intersection and that they have the right of way when the light turns green. They get, things like that, I think, have to be incorporated. It's got to be done. And that's the county. We got to get the county to do that.
So we have a bit of a deadline then in front of us, because this thing's going to get paid when the weather turns warm, and striped soon thereafter.
I think so. And if nothing else, at some point soon, we're going to have the city manager probably contact
Bob Church.
Bob Church, and say, Bob, we got to talk about the striping. Please don't, finalize any plans
Yeah.
until we are included in the conversation.
I'd like to see Bob Church or whoever's responsible at the county come to our meetings for the next couple of months. I mean, we have we have the police chief here. If churches in the county they're setting the way, they're doing it.
Yeah.
I'd like to have that communication firsthand rather than second, third hand, and, we agree on something here and they go do something different.
I would just, I mean,
It would seem to me that the next thing, because they're always looking for professional drawings. I mean, we can go in there with our ideas, and we've gone in there with our ideas. But it would just seem that we need, I don't know how we can get a professional, meet with a professional for those 2 intersections, the one at Lafayette and Madison and the one at Colliers. I mean, the county's not going to listen to us for our ideas. Because again, that area, both of those areas, you got to think outside of the box. They're just not normal intersections. So how can we get a professional? Because they'll go with the professional plans. I mean, the mayor just said that, we all just said that they're going to look at professionals. We can come in there, which we have, till we're blue in the face about our ideas, but we're not the professionals. So how?
Well, who is the professional? Are the people who are doing this RFP, are they professionals?
Yes.
I mean, so can we engage them as part of doing the RFP to give us some recommendations there, quote, from the professional?
That's
Yeah.
where we should start. I think that's exactly where we should start.
Exactly, but to my point, we do have a city manager who is a licensed engineer.
he can start off, he can kick off and say, we are
Yeah.
consulting with the company that's going to do it, but my visual recommendation as an engineer, he can put that title behind it. Bob Church, I need you to look at these 2 intersections and pause, but before you do these, because it's cost inhibitive not to do that, so definitely.
Yeah.
Chief, you had something else to?
No, I was just invited just to listen and weigh in with Mr. Yeager and just kind of listen. And
that's great.
you know, we're moving. You know, just because it's January doesn't mean we're not moving quickly in the summer. Summer's going to be here in a few months.
Yeah.
And it's this little lull we have right now between now and Valentine's Day, I call it. That's the only break we get. So we're going to be back at it. Traffic is going to be interrupted with all this construction and road paving and everything for a little while. That doesn't negate bikes and electric bikes and things coming back to Cape May for the summertime, and they're still here. I see people riding bikes all winter. That doesn't really stop. So,
Can you give us a little report on how things went in your view because of the lower speed limit and just having more bike
With-
initiatives?
with the lower speed limit, we were visibly able to see that people, there were some people still speeding in certain areas because it was still new and fresh. But, we were seeing with our speed signs, because we put some speed signs in last year late, and we're pulling data from them monthly, and we're actually giving them to the mayor. And we're seeing that, there's still some target areas, but there are people actually complying, more people complying than not. People might say, oh, they're still speeding on certain streets. There are. We saw a reduction in the accidents as far as they were concerned. We did have a lot more accidents throughout the island, but a reduction in the areas that we did drop the speed limit down to. I think that's going to continue. We need to, we're going to need to definitely get back out on our social media campaign and let people know, because we're so transient. People come here weekly, so every Saturday it changes, and people are back and forth, and they, I think with the addition of Lafayette Street being paved, I don't want it to be created as speedway now. Once it's paved and not bumpy anymore, and it's going to be a little bit challenging. So we'll do some more radar stuff there. We actually purchased a few more radar signs that we're going to be putting out. There's going to be 2 on Washington Street in both directions now, going back and forth. The county, they're very receptive to any county road. I just had one put in West Cape May on 4th Avenue. 2 speed signs that are going to be put there. Bob Church chimed in and said, hey, I'll put them there because it's a county road. So looking at, different areas, we might be able to get them to put some more speed signs around town on County Roads, Beach Drive, Lafayette Street, et cetera. So our campaign's still going to continue. We're going to try to start it a little earlier on our helmet campaign for the kids. That goes over well every year. People love that. I had more businesses chime in and say they want to be a part of that. And we love just stopping the families and saying, hey, thank you for wearing your helmets correctly. And then sometimes making an adjustment or, catching up with the kids and seeing where they are. So it's what we can do to do the best we can do. We are stopping more bikes, too, for violations. We had a lot more Class 1 SLEO officers. And I had a young female base this year, a lot of female officers that were out there, and, they kind of took it upon themselves with some direction to do that. We didn't give out a lot of tickets because we were in that year of transition of speed limit getting lowered and everything else. So everything's a warning, but now it's going to turn into, that we need to start ticketing a little bit more. A few tickets go a long way, but we don't want to be the ticket people and be looked at like poorly that way. So some education.
How did you find people adjusted to the change at Perry Street where the
Some confusion with that lower stop sign. It's harder to, I even find myself like stopping in my normal 48-year-old period of at the plumbing store, stopping right there, and then creeping up to the stop sign. So but someone new coming here, it's probably just normal to them. It feels odd for me to go that far down into the intersection. Like, should I be here? And then watching the light. So people are adjusting to it. I thought, and the mayor and I actually went out before they striped it and closed it in. Like, this island feels weird here. This bump out felt weird, but it does slow down the traffic going down Perry Street towards the beach. It does, because it forces them to come out, get down, and by the time they're at North Street, they're probably at 21 miles an hour, maybe.
kind of a bicycle nightmare?
It is. It's not wide, and it's kind of, it's tight there, so, but again.
Are you as happy as I am with the stop sign on Elmira?
I don't hate it. I know a lot of people don't. I don't hate it. I mean, I find myself when I hit the bridge, from coming from Westgate May, hit the bridge, I find myself probably speeding. So it causes me to slow down before I enter into town.
Yep.
Because I know I have to stop there, and before I speed up a little bit, I'm mindful, more mindful than I was before of blowing through that. I see still people, as I'm approaching it, blowing through it, because they're just not aware. They're like, then they put their hands up like, I missed that. But it's becoming, I think it stays. Some people hated it and thought it was a Mike Wall issue, but really was an issue that just, it controls people coming into town before you get in there, because it's just, you come around that bridge and you're heading into Cape May, you're moving. I'm at 37 miles an hour every time I look at it, every single time. I'm not gonna sit here and wrap myself out, but yeah, if I'm doing it.
Whoops.
Codified yet?
Citizens arrest.
They are both codified, yes. They have been codified. They are ticketable. They will be getting tickets there. And,
Okay.
we did the study last time, but before you ask, we only had that one accident there, which was ahead of it. Two accidents, it was a DWI and a bicycle accident, but the bicycle accident was well ahead of it, almost past the electric plant, and the other one was a DWI that hit a car 60 feet before it.
Do you think there's any chance that Atlantic Electric would move that curb in so that there could actually be a bike lane along Venice?
That's an engineer question. I think it's been talked about, because they talked about putting some shrubbery there on the outside so people weren't able to come off that curb a little bit. There was talk about that before, when Paul was first starting, because Paul and I actually went out there with the engineer, before he became the manager. We went out there and looked at that. So that probably could happen, but I think it would be a question for the engineer, our engineer, and city manager.
Okay.
Definitely. And he's been out there. He's physically been out to the plant with me to watch it. And we were there the day the lady fell off her bike, because she's said, it's not like riding a bike because it doesn't always come back. She forgot how to pedal. She said it outwardly.
Yeah.
Mike, a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago, you presented some statistics on traffic coming into town through, the back way there. And I think that was prior to putting the stop sign in.
I did that?
I thought it was you or presented, but what the volume was by hour and then the speed of those people that was collected.
No,
At Elmira?
I don't remember that.
No, not at Elmira. I definitely know that.
There was some kind of report that.
New Jersey
I think
Avenue.
it was on
Elmira
Facebook.
was probably the road that was speeded on the most in the city.
Yeah, yeah.
There was a speed analysis report given.
I remember that. I don't think I presented it, but I remember seeing something along those lines.
I'm just wondering if, what the statistics are now, once the stop sign has gone in there and the speed monitoring was.
Well, what I can tell you is that speed sign is now data recorded, so we have that data. I can give you the data. I can tell
Yeah.
you, Lieutenant Mazza can tell you, since we put the sign in, what the speeds are approaching that intersection.
Yep.
That we do have.
It would just, to me, it would be interesting to see if traffic has really slowed coming into town there.
I think that, now I remember that, Chief, you did put out a report that all of the speed signs record everybody's speed.
Yeah.
So you have data.
You have the data.
You have data, and that throughout the town, I'm shocked that well over 80% of the people are doing below the speed limit or darn close to it.
It was very,
It's been impressive.
Yep.
And the fastest street that there was Elmira, but it wasn't crazy. I don't think the number was that.
It wasn't. I can get, we just pulled it last month, but from the time we put it in until now, if we want to look at that, I can get that for you, yes.
I think that would be interesting to
It's
see.
interesting, on my way in here, I listened to an NPR report on traffic speeding in Philadelphia, and they were saying these radar signs, which you have up and we're discussing right now, are the most effective way, and they do work to slow down speed.
Honestly, I would say yes, because it slows me down,
Yeah.
It's common to
Flashes at
look
you,
up
it's-
and see, whoa.
Yep, you're there.
I mean, coming into town, that little speed sign on the island at Sydney, I mean, you're doing 25, which is slow enough through that section, which is hard to teach yourself to do that. And
Yeah.
now you're being asked to do 10, approaching that island, which is not, it stops
hard.
blinking at the front, which
It
is
stops
not-
blinking, yes. When I get to 19, it stops blinking.
Anyway,
Still work to be done, basically, though. We're going to continue.
We're getting there.
We're getting there. Yeah, so we're definitely doing that. Electric bikes are still doing their thing. I actually transitioned away from electric bikes a little bit. We're going to keep half our fleet and go back to conventional bikes. Just nothing to do with bike safety, but maintenance of them for a police fleet. It's a little bit more difficult to maintenance on an electric bike more expensive. So we transition. We have half our fleet is electric still, and then the other half is new conventional, the old style bicycles. My staff doesn't love me because now they have to pedal more, but that's okay.
Right.
They're young. They're okay.
I just have one other Terry has talked about the Lafayette, Decatur, Bank Street intersection. So I come into town on Elmira, and I'm being directed on to Venice, and now I'm on Bank. I get to Bank, I'm on Lafayette. I have no good options with a bicycle. It's not safe. I mean, it's worse than Elmira because Lafayette's busy. And so, and you can't go on to Decatur right there because you got.
One way.
Way, yeah.
Not yet.
That's,
That's the sidewalk.
so that's where I go on the sidewalk and either walk my bike or.
I walk,
nobody's on it,
that's,
I ride my
that's
bike.
what I do, is I walk my bike the half a block to
Half a
Lyle.
block.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a good,
No,
Not
because
a
most
good
people aren't
option.
gonna do that.
But that's one area we want the consultant to look at.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
That
so
whole-
that would be, but see, I'm thinking, we're paving Lafayette, we're lining Lafayette, and here's our chance to get that.
But even if we
intersection.
just did green box there.
Yes.
The green box at Madison, the green box, just like 3 green boxes up and down Lafayette Street to just say, this is a shared road with bikes and pedestrians.
yeah.
Slow down.
And you know what? They'll be so new in town, I think that they would be they'd be observed, people would start to understand, because we have bright green boxes that nobody's ever seen anywhere before in this town anyhow.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
I've seen them in Ocean City. Ocean
Yeah.
City has them. They do stand out, like Mike's saying, they stand out. But a campaign of getting that message out.
The one place that can be, and I don't know how much has been discussed, is, like you said, Jeff, you come up there, and then the only solution is to go up on the sidewalk to continue on. Is that, and again, it's an engineering thing, and it would be a tough thing, is, to me, is just putting a 2-way bike lane starting right there behind the gazebo that goes across to, it goes to Carpenter Street. That whole area of kind of blocking off cars. So it's another huge but important area right there to figure out. And again, it's going to have to be outside the box. It's not going to be the standard thing. But it'll be interesting. We're talking about Lafayette Bank here, but we're not talking about how to get those bikes across legally and to the beach. So, and that's what, between workers and stuff, just trying to find a legal solution, which again would have to be, that's another, not only on Lafayette Street, but that Decatur area too needs to be addressed by a professional. But again, thinking outside the box.
We have work to do.
No argument.
Just keeping one lane of traffic, somehow just the one lane rather than the 2 lanes. Take one of those lanes and make it a 2-way bike lane. But it's very cattywampus there. It's not a perpendicular nice thing. But again, thinking outside the box is you start having these angled crosswalks and stuff. So anyway.
Yeah, so these are things that we'll have to crystallize here before Lafayette gets finished and see if we can't have some influence on that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Looks like we're meeting soon.
Yeah, so it's how we quickly get, seeing if we can get somebody professional to address these couple of key spots, basically off of Lafayette, the key spot. How do we go about that, guys?
You know what I think at this point, and because what Paul indicated was, we've got a whole lot of administrative, legal stuff to go through with the consultant. So they're not going to get started for a while. I thought that they would be getting going, hitting the ground running. That's not the case. I actually think we should suggest to Paul to invite Bob Church to the next meeting.
Yes.
And let's
Love that
just
idea.
get Bob started on, these are our concerns, this is what we need for you guys to do a little bit differently if possible. And I'll tell you, I mean, we might even have to ask him to not do some striping right away, to wait until, tell him that we have professionals coming in to do
Yeah.
actually more than they know how to do. So, give us a chance to work with this group, and then we talk about how we fix a couple of these spots.
That makes
So-
sense.
So, yeah, I think you ought to be at the next meeting, and then we get going with him.
That's February 14th. We have a little Valentine party.
Just in our layman's way of doing some drawings, non-professional drawings, but this is what we've come up with. Could we do that ahead of time?
For the new consultants?
No, for Bob Church,
Oh, for Bob
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just say, this is our layman's draft of what could be the solution if you think outside the box. So,
And that's what we're asking you to do.
I mean, he's,
I'm not sure Bob Church is going to be awfully receptive to
No,
our ideas of how it should be done. I think if we put it in the hands of the professionals.
yeah, we've been softening him up, though, so we'll have to,
Well, I think it's communicating with him that
we're not professionals, but this,
We-
living in town, seeing all this, could something, be drummed up similar to this? This is just our last-ditch effort in trying to find a solution as non-professionals, I guess.
Well, when an approach that may be amenable to him and he won't feel, put in a spot is to say, explain to us what you plan on doing at these different locations.
Yeah.
Give us your version now, and then that's when you say, oh, we don't like that. And can we talk about it? And we have professionals coming in to, work with us and suggest other changes. But I think the start has to be, let's see what these guys come up with. We might be surprised that
yeah.
Bob has some good ideas.
Just part of the problem-solving process, we're at the stage of identifying the problem.
Yes.
And here's what our
That's-
problems are.
Yeah.
Now let's do some analysis with different views. We'll have a layman's view, but the professionals have their view. He'll have the county's view. We'll have the city's, so we get these things. But I think right now we're still in the problem identification process.
Yeah.
Which we're getting to. These are the 4 hot areas to look at.
And that's,
And
yeah.
what not to do, like.
I think we should invite him and tell him that these are the 4 areas. We'd like to hear what you're going to be doing. Lafayette Street as a whole is pretty much the deal.
Yeah.
We want to focus on a couple of areas, but what is the plan?
and he might have valid ideas that we like. Might, because if you
Yeah.
tell him this is what we want, he's like, okay, well, I've done Ocean City and I've done here and I've done there, and you may not even just run it by the consultant and say, does this fit? Yeah, I would have done the same thing. Because I trust in Bob Church's technical skill and his background, absolutely. Look at the county roadways. They're getting better, not worse. It's just pushing them along, and, telling him how to do his job is sometimes not, Coming from Terry, he may not want to hear Terry so much as we do. We love Terry, but everyone else, diplomatically, may not want to be yelled at. Love you, Terry.
Are you listening?
She cut me.
She's absorbing. You should watch the replay.
Yeah, you'll have to watch the replay.
Well, I know you don't want me, I'm too much of a loose cannon, like I said, talking, just very quiet and, but so going forward, when do we want do we want to keep with the next meeting
Yes.
in February?
I think so.
Yes.
Yep.
Who's doing what?
Could you invite Bob Church?
What I'll do is I'll ask Paul
Right, okay.
to
Yeah.
make that invitation, and we would like Paul and Bob there.
Yes.
What I would definitely
And
do.
Chief, if you're,
Yeah, I'll be available. I should be, unless I have some type of date in the afternoon or the morning for that, but for the Valentine's Day. But when I go into meetings, if I'm dealing with the press or a committee, I like to ask for the questions up ahead of time.
Yeah.
Don't surprise him. Make sure he has this full conversation coming to the meeting, so he doesn't have to let me get back to you. He might come with a plan or come with an idea, and I think it offers him the opportunity
Good point.
to plan ahead. Just tell him what you want. Don't bombard him. Here's the 4 spots that we have concerns with. What do we do?
So-
Send our questions and our proposed plans to Bob Church ahead of the meeting.
Okay.
and we should do that now, as, hopefully, if he can't, and it might be a day before or a day after, hopefully we can be flexible and try to
Or even
hook
allow him
up
to
with
come
Bob.
on Zoom if
So,
we need to.
Terry, my suggestion would be an email exchange between us prior to, in the next couple of weeks, so that we can then get this to him.
The strength comes from your manager, so get them to the manager and Mr. Yeager.
Right.
I know how when things come from me, from boards and things like that, I want to hear it from one isolated
Yeah,
person
no.
at the recommendation of this committee. No disrespect to you guys, but,
No,
you know,
Makes perfect sense.
he's got he listens to a manager.
We're not insulted.
No. Literally, I have to call the state sometimes for my staff because they don't listen to a detective or a secretary. They answer a chief. I'm no better than them. It's just they like to answer engineer to engineer, manager to manager, because they feel like I kind of got to answer that guy.
Yeah.
That's just how it works sometimes.
Well, yeah, I had it when I was the doc. They didn't want to hear my staff.
They don't.
saying
You
the
know
same
it.
thing.
Yep, absolutely. As rude as it may be, it's like same question, same person, same building, but
Yeah.
different title. I have to run for a meeting. If anybody
Okay.
else needs,
All right,
let me know.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And Happy New Year.
Thanks.
Happy New
To
Year.
you.
Zoom through. Boogie through.
Oh, yes, we can do this. Has everybody had a chance? I'm going to go through the meeting, just to finish this off officially. We did the Pledge of Allegiance, but did everybody have a chance to read the minutes of the last meeting? Okay. But, yeah, so when you do, give me a motion for approval and we'll approve them. They were accurate, I can tell you.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I'll accept a motion for
I make a
approval.
motion to approve the
Do I hear a
minutes.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
And so we did the update on grant status for Paul Dietrich. And the city manager and Paul gave us the report as city manager and city engineer. We got the police report from the chief. We went through old business for sure. And new business will be for us to get together and put some layman's ideas on paper to present to Paul Dietrich, who's going to present it to Bob Church ahead of him coming to the meeting next month.
Yep.
Know any retired engineers who would like to serve on our committee? Or anybody
Yeah, it's
at
great.
all who would like to serve on it, because we're missing a few people here.
That's a
And
great-
how does that happen, Mike? Is that something that's an appointed position through the mayor? Or do we give suggestions or ask for volunteers? to fill
Yeah,
out?
so, they have to, the process is normally first we have to have a vacancy, which I'm not sure if you do or don't, if there's a restriction. So you have vacancies. All you need to do is get a request from the person that you want to be put on the committee. They should just send the request to the city clerk that they're interested in being in the committee, and the clerk will give that to us, and we will vote on it, and at the next meeting, it'll be in the resolution. It'll just be in the, basically the consent agenda, it's so-called. We'll just vote the person in, but yeah, the council has to approve any
Yeah.
committee appointment.
Okay, so really, the task at hand is, we're gonna, on our own, try to to give to Paul, who then will communicate with Bob Church on. Is that correct?
Well, I think, I'd like to suggest again that your first meeting with Bob Church be listen to Bob Church.
Right.
Terry, what we were talking about is I think we tell Bob Church that we'd really like an update on Lafayette Street and tell him specifically, Lafayette Street at Jackson, Lafayette at Decatur and Bank. How are you striping Madison to Lafayette and the crossing at Lafayette? And then I guess that would be basically, or no, then the Michigan to Lafayette striping, if I didn't say that. I think that,
They are receptive to once they do a proposal, that's where I'm afraid we're going to get lost.
well, they already have plans is the issue. So what we need to hear is, what plans do you have? And that's the point at which we have to tell them, look, we think that you're missing, there's some issues that we're concerned about and what you're proposing.
We hope to then discuss when we meet up with them, is that correct?
Yes. Yes, so we hear him and then we tell him what we think is not good or what we would like him to consider, et cetera. Again, we won't have engineering drawings by then, but if we have pictures and stuff, that's good too. But I think you just have to start out, first meeting with Bob has to be, what are you doing? And we might be surprised that some of the things they have planned are good, they work. And if they don't, I'd like, this is the time when we should be pointing out that we have a grant from the federal government to study a lot of these things. So please don't do certain striping or implement plans yet until our study is we can give you input from the study.
So we should be able to do that, have a discussion with him on what they are presenting. We will be prepared to, if there's saying, well, if we'll come up with all of our issues of why we think the plan that they have may not be effective. Is that kind of how you go at it?
Exactly. I think that's exactly what we want to do.
Are you suggesting we do that, we have a meeting just to listen to him and then come back at another meeting, or we can come back?
No, I think that we listen to him, and then in that same meeting,
Okay.
I think that we'll be able to say, we think that you're missing something here, and
These are the reasons.
yes, and these are the reasons for it, and we'd like to talk about how we get those changed. And again, it's not this committee suggesting it. We will have professional advice on how to fix it. And of course, I think simultaneously, we need to be meeting with the consulting firm and getting our input.
If they're on board.
If by then they're on board. I don't think they will be by February
Can
14th, so.
Let them know that there's some time-sensitive stuff that when they're ready, let us know. kind of.
Absolutely, yeah.
We could do that. Would that be Paul?
That's Paul, yeah. I mean, again, Paul has heard from council that we'd like to direct them into certain areas. The first, of course, was the Jackson and the Jackson Street in Lafayette, but I'll make sure that, Paul heard some of these issues today, but I will remind Paul, these are the things that we need to talk to the county about, we want to hear from the county about, and that we need to have our firm, let's have them looking here first before they go out to Cape May Point.
Exactly.
Or any place else in the city. Do this.
Okay.
All right, I think
We'll see how it goes.
covered it all. It's a good meeting. I'm glad we had it.
Yeah, I'm
And,
Yeah.
I'll hear a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
second.
Hillary motions, Jim seconds, and all in favor?
There you go.
Great, thank you.
Okay.